Thank you, members of the media. Ladies, please keep your phones on silent. No? Okay. Which one? Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Two? Yeah, happy birthday.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Morning to the media.
Yes, cool. Thank you.
Recording in
members
progress.
of the media, thank you very much once again for joining us for this MTN 8 final press conference as we look forward to the big one, the most important match of the tournament, which is the final between Cape Town City and Mamelodi Sundowns. It will be played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium on Saturday, the 30th of October, and kickoff is 1800. I'm now joined by the head coach of the away team for this fixture, Mr. Rhulani Mokoena, as we preview the big one, like I said. Coach, maybe just opening remarks, heading into the final, the first final of the season in the PSL calendar. And I think it's also your first final, domestic final, that is, as a head coach at Mamelodi Sundowns. And you come up against Cape Town City side. Yeah, just your thoughts heading into that match. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Thato. Yeah, we expect a very difficult match against a very, very good side. When you speak of preparations and analysis, you look at two facets. The one is from a personnel perspective, of course. And my opinion is that Cape Town City probably have what I would say close to the most complete side in relation to personnel. They have specialists in every position and very good players. I mean, you've got Hugo in goals. Extensive experience has helped them a bit with the build-up, and is very, 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 very good in relation to how they want to play, to build from the back, his distribution for transitions, etc., etc. And then you've got the left back. Mashego is probably the most on-form left back, and probably Mubara is probably one of the best centre halves in the country. You've got Phyllis, who's one of the best centre halves in the country. Best right backs in the country. You've got Mokeke, who I believe is probably one of the best deep line playmakers in the country. There's only 3 in the country, and of course Mokeke falls into that space. A lot of other teams play with defensive midfielders, but Cape Town City play with a deep line playmaker, which then also again speaks to the other part of who they are and what they are about, because as a team that wants to have a player like Mokeke deeper in positions where he initiates the build-up and he wants a little bit of comfort and to be able to find spaces higher up the pitch by dragging people to come in, then you've got the right sort of player with Mokeke. Left foot, range of pass, defensively very strong because he's got the profile of having played as a centre half and as a left back. So you should never think of Mokeke as a defensive midfielder. He's extremely offensive, and everything looks to start through him. And then, of course, you've got a Nodada who's got the highest number of chances created. The same with Mdantsane, who's probably their most important with, I think, 9 goal-scoring contributions in goals and assists. You've got, Fakri Lakay is on form, 2 goals in the last 4 games. Speed, directness, the ability to play in front of the defensive line, behind the defensive line. Rhulani, who for me is probably one of the best players and one of the best players in the league. Highest number of dribbles, highest number of box entries, highest number of chances created. Huge shot volume, shoots a lot and looks to capitalize to finish situations. And then you've got the Craig Martin, who can play on the line, create double wide situations when they play with the back 4, and maybe even join the offensive line and create a 2-pronged attack with lakay. And then depending on the structure, and as I said, from personnel, you then move into the structure, which is a bit more complex because in the last 4 games, they've had 2 different structures. And then within the 2 different structures, for an example, against Sikukune, where they played with a back 4, they had Ajegan playing as a top striker instead of Fakri, and Ajegan's interpretation of the position is a lot more different than Fakri because of his tendencies to be a 10, and then that replicates a false 9 sort of structure, and then you still have a Rhulani to come in if the centre halves attach, and you have a Craig Martin to come in, the centre halves attached. So Yeah, a very interesting team, a team that is only second to Sundowns in relation to possession, a team that is only second to SuperSport in terms of efficiency on their transitions, a team that has 7 players that create big chances on average per match, and a team that has 8 players that create over 50 passes in relation to possession and looking for the ball and willingness to play. So already you can then see that it's a team that's got, and of course, even in the league, they've got the highest XG, or the second highest XG. They create the second highest number of big chances in the league. So already with regards to the data, with regards to the analysis that we've gone through, and extremely extensive with that work, you can already see that it's 2 teams with similar playing profiles. They initiate the way they want the game to be played by using the ball, and want to be dominant. And we expect, when there's a clash of styles, methodologies, game approaches, then you look to win the game on different other factors that contribute in terms of performance. But a good team with a very, very good attack, strong attack, with a lot of individual players that can influence the game on their side.
Wow, thank you very much, Coach. Seems like you are ready. You've done your homework. Let's
Always.
take the yeah, very impressive. First question from the floor, Mazola.
Thanks, Fatu. Morning, Coach, and congratulations on getting this far. My question is just probably you set it up nicely with the data that you've given us, but Cape Town City. Someone
Can we
with the
mute?
Okay. Yeah. Let me just. Okay. Sorry about that. You can go ahead.
Thanks. Am I maybe correct in, assuming that perhaps for Sundowns, especially the back 4, this will be a true test, given how complete a team Cape Town City are. And just as you said, if you look at their data, they are high scoring. I mean, they probably sometimes concede just as much as they score, but they are quite potent in attack, although maybe vulnerable at the back. I mean, in the domestic league so far, you've only ever conceded in this competition and not in the league. And maybe it's ironic that you are facing a team that is so high scoring, have been doing so in this competition and in the league. Do you expect your back 4 to truly be tested by this team? And just also an injury update from your side. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Shubs. Yeah, Mazola, look, you're 100% correct. I mean, they've scored 13 goals. They've conceded 10. But if you look very closely at Cape Town City, and in responding directly to your question, it's going to be a very difficult game for the entire team, because a lot of the play, as I said initially, starts with a Phillies that is very comfortable to drive into the midfield, whether it's a back 3, like you saw against Pirates initially with Faseka, Phillies, Mubara. And you have these possibilities of Phillies creating overloads by dribbling into, very similar to how Chelsea and how Rudiger does the movements to create these overloads in the midfield. And then you've got Mubara, who's very comfortable to bring the ball out, to find the vertical pass into the half space, to find the diagonal ball into Rhulani, who is inverted into the opposite half space, or to find the ball behind the defensive line with the lakay. Or then if they can't find, if they've got pressure on their defensive line, they then look for Mokeke to either come a little bit into the space in between the center halves, or maybe even into the space on the half space on the left-hand side, so he can receive and play a diagonal ball to the right, or Thato Mokeke or Craig Martin. So the work that we have is the work in dealing with their build-up. We've got a lot of work to do with dealing with their build-up, and if we can work very hard and invest a lot of energy in relation to that, we should be okay. But this is a different game that's got a different component, and therefore we've got to look at our own schemes and manipulate our schemes to try and deal with the detail that you get from an inverting Mkhize or an aggressive overlapping Mashiko. And then in certain moments when they play with Fakri, how do we interpret the offensive line, Craig Martin coming in, if it's a back three, back four? Or if they go again with Ajagan as a false nine, how do we interpret that, and how do we deal with the space that is created in front of our center halves? So, yeah, I agree with you. It's a bit more complex, but they've got their weaknesses too, and we've got also a lot of very good players and players that will be on the pitch that will help us to look to dominate possession, that will help us to look to influence the game our way and play it the way we want it to be played. We want it to be a dominance and no contest, and that's the personality we always adopt. But good, we come into it with players that are on form and playing very, very well. Mshishi is playing well, Andile Jali is playing well, Riva is playing well. All our center halves have come in. Brian Onyango has done very well when called upon. We have the options of having Ricardo Nascimento, who's ready for local matches, and Musa has been stable. Dennis Onyango is playing exceptionally well, and we've got collectively, I mean, you can go on and on and on. Mudau has been exceptional the last 3 matches. You've got a lakay that's Mr. Consistency, huge influence on set pieces, on open play, and creating opportunities. And then, of course, Peter Shalulile, Kermit, Villa, Safranco are in good moments at this point in time in the season. So we feel also that the final has come at a good time for us, and we feel very confident going into what will be a very difficult game against the team, as you said, will not say complete, but almost complete. And when I say almost complete, I'm not talking in relation to how they play and the schemes that they adopt on the pitch. I'm talking personnel and the players that they have in relation to the structure that they adopt sometimes. So, yeah, it should be very interesting. On injuries, yeah, we've got a couple of situations that we had. We had Gaston missing the previous game with flu. We expect him to be back to start. We haven't seen the players yet. We had our recovery and our day off since the match on Sunday, and we'll assess the players as soon as they return back to work. But yeah, apart from maybe the Lebo Mabue situation, which, yeah, we've spoken about it extensively. But yeah, we don't have too many major situations. Except the Mvala, we still have to see what's happening. Roshin is still not returned to training yet, but we are optimistic, and hopefully they'll be part of the preparations for this week.
Okay, thank you, Coach, and thank you, Mazola, for the questions. Let's move on to Karabo.
Thank you very much, Thato. Good morning, Coach Rhulani, and good morning to all my colleagues as well. Coach, I think obviously, you know, you've got the experience of playing in cup finals, but this is your first as one of the head coaches. Coach, obviously the players might be a bit excited, you know, playing this final, but how do you manage the game and not the occasion? What is your plan in regards to that? How to manage the game and not the occasion? And secondly, Coach, I think also it's a bit of a foregone conclusion that you're only as good as your players. And you've spoken glowingly about, you know, the structure of Cape Town City and how the certain schemes that they adopt on the pitch. But your thoughts on Coach Eric Tinkler? I mean, he's also guided Pirates to the CAF Confederations Cup a couple of years ago. He's played in cup finals. He's lifted 1 or 2, if I'm not mistaken. Your thoughts on Coach Tinkler and on how to manage the occasion and not how to manage the game and not the occasion on Saturday? Thank you.
Thanks, Karabo. Very, very, very good questions. Look, if we have in any way, I think have to personalize the question in relation to the lack of experience for cup finals, then the good thing is that we have the experience that Mangoba has with cup finals, then Steve Kompela has as head coaches in cup finals. We have the experience of the players in dealing with cup finals. I think we are blessed in that space that we have players that have played so many cup finals. They've played games of consequence and they know what games of consequence and playing games of consequence means for the club and how important it is for us to be able to put this one to bed for the club. It is the one trophy that over the years we haven't won. And it's a trophy that we are motivated by the desire of our goals and not motivated by the pressure of having not won the trophy. It's two different aspects. The one comes from more of a negative context. The one comes from more of a positive context. And us being a positive club, we want to be inspired by the goals, the ambitions, the targets, the direction that we want to take, and the MTN 8 is very important for us in laying the marker and moving forward into winning the first cup final this season. And so that becomes very important. And once you have that context, it's easier then to understand that you can't come to the occasion. You've got to be part of the occasion. And when you're part of the occasion, it's very different to coming to the occasion, because when you come to the occasion, it's easy to come with your backpack. But when you are part of the occasion, you've got to perform and you leave the backpack at home. So everything else, the previous performances, the surnames of the individuals, the names of the individuals, they matter for nothing when you come into the cup final, because those belong to the backpack. And when you arrive for the occasion where you've got to perform in and you've got to bring your A game, then you leave the backpack aside, because you don't want to be like Zahara or Usindhom. So that's for us. We want to be there, we want to perform, and we want to give a good account of ourselves. And that then means already that we've got to respect the match, 11 versus 11 on the pitch, and not the occasion. And I think we are fortunate that we've got enough experience, not just from a players, personnel, but also from the technical staff and people that have done exceptionally well with regards to cup finals.
Thank you, Coach. And Karabo.
No, sorry.
Sorry.
No, Eric Tinkler. I've got huge respect. Always warm, always cordial with regards to our interactions. Has shown over the years, even while as an assistant coach to Roger at Bidvest, his huge understanding of the game. In all the teams where he's been head coach, there's been a clear playing profile. At Maritzburg, you can go into Chippa, you can go into now in relation to Cape Town City before, after Mpumalanga Black Aces. So huge experience as a coach, huge experience as a football player, very passionate about the game as a football coach and the details of the game, very detailed with regards to his preparation. Is a huge admirer of analysis and this modern use of both sports science and technology that helps in relation to elevate performances. I've heard very good things from football players, which is very important when trying to understand football coaches, and players speak glowingly about Eric and his way of managing players and his way of managing training sessions. And of course, then my smaller interactions with him have been nothing but very cordial and extremely warm. So one of the coaches that I believe probably should be in line to coach Bafana in the future, but someone that I've got huge amounts of respect for.
Thank you. Moving on to Mahlatsi.
Good morning, Coach, and to the colleagues. Coach, on my side, at the risk of sounding repetitive, I want to follow up on Karabo's question and say, how do you manage the anxiety of the players? Looking at the fact that most of the guys who are there now have been at Sundowns for a while, and they've unsuccessfully on a number of occasions failed to win this tournament. Is there going to be anxiety, and how do you make sure that they don't fall into that trap of trying too hard because of the fact that they've not won it in the past?
Mahlatsi, I love your question because it's in a space of neuroscience, and I don't want to be going into that space because it's a space that at this moment in time I'm extremely invested in. I mean, if you watch the Champions League, if you watch the English Premier League, if you watch the Euro League, the Euro League where we had Spain and Italy and France in the final, it's unbelievable the level of football that is being played in. And then if you do extensive research and you speak to a lot of people, you understand how there was a group of university graduates who have gone both to Liverpool and to Manchester City with this huge phenomenon, and how I don't know what they're calling it, but at this moment in time, it's this research that is being done where they have these little pods that they are putting on the brains of the football players. Because the most interesting thing about the brain is that just close to Amingala, I think it's the Amingala, which is the center that controls your fear, your anxiety levels, and secretes these chemicals into the rest of the body. You understand that center is close to the center that controls new learning. And upon the secretion of anxiety and fear, you then have this blockage of tapping into the files where there are new elements that you have learned or new learnings. So that then moves you completely away from the space of coaching and the technical aspects of the game. It then puts you, as I said, in that psychological space, anthropology, psychology, and the operations of neuroscience and how the brain works. I don't want to turn it into a physiology or an anatomy sort of discussion, and I want to keep it at football. But your question then speaks about how the game is progressing and how quick the game is progressing. That even in a space where we've got maybe huge advancements that we have made from technical, physical, where maybe even from a technical and from a physical perspective, we've reached the plateau of player development or athlete development in regards to the type of football players we can produce and manipulate in producing. Maybe the biggest scope now is exactly what you are saying is how do you then control anxiety and fear, that fight or flight natural space that the brain goes into when faced with difficult challenges or unfamiliar challenges rather. Then you understand that it goes into the level of experience of the players, the motivation and where that motivation comes from. Is it intrinsic or extrinsic? And the ability to manipulate not just the anxiety, but have the right sort of balance between anxiety and confidence. And I think fortunately for us, with the amount of experience that our players have, and as I said, we are fortunate enough to have that sort of personnel to be able to call upon in moments like this, where their experiences of having played in games of consequence will come in. And of course, understanding clearly that it is only normal to be anxious to when facing cup finals, but it's that anxiety that needs to push you to be able to have this sober-mindedness in approaching games, because you don't want to be too confident, but you also don't want to be too anxious. So in that space, the only thing that we can do is, one, fortunately, we've got the support of the experience of the technical staff, as I've said. Cup finals for Steve Kompela while he was at Chiefs, cup finals for Mangoba when he was at Golden Arrows. In fact, he won this competition with Golden Arrows. And then, of course, we have to support the players with regards to our preparation. I always say that proper preparation eliminates fear. And when the players go into the pitch knowing exactly what to face, knowing exactly what the strong points of the opposition are, the strong points of the individual players, but also the weaknesses. And that's important. Knowing the weaknesses is also very, very important in giving confidence. And knowing how we're going to score goals and how we're going to win football matches. That information comes from the extensive work that is being done by our analysts. Mario Masha has already started 2 weeks ago in Cape Town City, with the support of SBU with regards to the data and the numbers to support the evidence that has been pulled out by Mario in the video footage, of course, supported by Gulam and Dale. But that sort of work is the work that you put in on and then transfer that onto the pitch, create these scenarios, simulate these scenarios on the pitch to try to give context from a practical perspective in transmitting these sort of ideas and these pictures to the players' brains, so that when they are faced with these moments of anxiety, at least maybe because of repetition, the new learnings have gone into a space of habits, because exactly that, as I explained that process a bit earlier, when you're anxious and you're full of fear, you then go into default settings. And you would like to believe that with the repetition of different schemes, pictures, ways of trying to approach the game, hopefully, that is then transferred into that space of old habits or default settings that the players can pick up on. So, yeah, and playing football at the end is like driving a car. The more you think about certain things, the more anxious you become. So hopefully we are able to be as well prepared, so that we don't have to think about these pictures. But when we see these pictures, the brain already says, automized. And then they can find quicker and more dynamic solutions towards the football problems.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take the last two questions, quick ones, please. Rob, just one question, as well as David afterwards. Thanks.
Thanks, Thato. Hi, Coach. Hope you're well. Coach,
very well, Rob. How are you?
Very good, very good.
How's Coach, the weather in Cape Town?
Nice and warm today. Nice and warm, finally. Coach, you've waxed lyrically about the playing personnel and the coaching staff of Cape Town City. It's a team that, since 2016, I think it's 6 wins aside. How much just personally do you guys as the technical team thrive on the challenge of playing a team like this and on a big occasion in the final?
Yeah, well, when you are part of Mamelodi Sundowns, you can never personalize. I mean, this institution is far greater than all of us. This institution has millions and millions of people whose livelihood, whose happiness, and you use the term happiness index, is what we have in relation to influencing the happiness of the millions of Mamelodi Sundowns supporters. And then, of course, because of the profile of the leadership, people who are selfless and people who are extremely humble in relation to how they approach society and how they approach life and how they use football merely as a means of giving back and trying to uplift the communities. You then understand that when you are part of Sundowns, ours is only but to serve. And when you are a servant, it becomes nothing but no personal context. And this is our mentality Of course, in the space of being a true sportsman and being extremely competitive, we want to win. We play every match to try to win, but it is to try to win for the club. It is to try to be at service for the club and its people and the Motsepe family. And when we have a clear understanding of that, then it gives us and it galvanizes this energy that we need to be able to serve and give 150% in relation to the work that we do. And when 3 a.m., 4 a.m. comes up and you've got to still continue going and going and going, you understand that we are only at service, and you have this fuel that is inside of you that still allows you to dig deeper and push on and work even harder. And that's the work that we try to carry out to try to support this team, support the players, and make the Yellow Nation extremely happy. So yeah, we are at service, and as long as we still are here, while we are still here and giving the service that we have to give to this beautiful club, and we'll do it with the greatest of diligence, extreme amounts of hard work, and always remembering that we have to be selfless, and it can never ever be about us. And maybe you guys think it's easy to say this before the final, without lifting the trophy, but believe you me, it's the same talk that we'll have even after the final.
Morning, Coach. It's David from Mediski. How are you?
How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Coach, just a quick one. You already told us how much it would mean for the club, to win this trophy that has eluded you since 2008. But maybe on a personal level, how much would it mean to you, to win a trophy that Pitso Mosimane, your former mentor, and you have a close relationship with him, didn't win with the club? Thanks.
Yeah, but it's a trophy that many others didn't win, and not just Coach Pitso. I mean, Coach Pitso's CV speaks about for itself, the work that he's done. And of course, I always say this, I am not in competition with Coach Pitso. I can't be looking to win things because Coach Pitso didn't win them. And then, of course, because at the end, it's also not an individual thing. The leadership of the club, from a technical perspective, means that there's more than one coach in our space. And therefore, to personalize and to put it only about me becomes a little bit of a difficult space to go into. Huge respects for the work that Pitso has done at Mamelodi Sundowns. Huge respects for the trophies that he's achieved. And of course, that's the focus. The focus is trying to make sure that we continue the legacy that has been left behind, the success that has been left behind, but not just by Pitso, but by even his predecessors, because it takes more than one human being to build an empire. And while you are at service, while you are in the position of leading, of course, as a group with Coach Mangoba and Coach Steve Kompela, Coach Wendell, we understand that our responsibility, again, once more, is to serve this institution. And as I said, while we're still here, we will do that to the best of our ability and make sure that we continue to try to win all the trophies that are on offer, every single match, every single training session. That's our mentality. We want to play with intensity. We want to play with a lot of concentration. And to do that means you've got to be selfless. And for the players to be selfless, that mentality needs to be driven from us, the technical leadership. So yeah, it's got absolutely nothing to do with Coach Pitso or myself. It's about the club, and that's where our focus lies.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. We're gonna have to end it here. I think we've gone over.
He's also late.
Yeah, we've gone over the allocated time before Shupi kills me. We're going to have to end it here. Thank you very much, Coach, once again, and all the best for the weekend. Members of the media, have a good day further, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks for the biology lesson, Bielsa.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Fatu. Thank you, members of the media. Thanks, Mazola. Thanks, Bielsa.